Doing? Oh, there I am. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Nice. That was better than all of first service. Hey, if you're here and you're out in the hallway or grabbing some coffee, feel free to come on and worship with us. If you're online, we appreciate you taking the time to spend some time with us and worship God together. So feel free to stand or don't, sing or don't, but we appreciate you.
I once was dead in sin, alone and hopeless. A child of wrath I walked, condemned in darkness. But your mercy brought me light, and in your loving kindness raised me up with Christ and made me righteous. You have brought me back with the riches of your amazing grace and relentless love. I'm made alive forever with your life, forever by your grace I'm saved, by your grace I'm saved. Lord, you are the light that broke the darkness. You satisfy my soul when I am heartless. If ever I forget, you're my true identity. Show me who I am and help me to believe. You have brought me back with the riches of your amazing grace and relentless love. I'm made alive forever with your life, forever by your grace I'm saved, by your grace I'm saved. My sin has been erased, and I'll never be the same. My sin has been erased, and I'll never be the same. My sin has been erased, and I'll never be the same. My sin has been erased, and I'll never be the same. You have brought me back with the riches of your amazing grace and relentless love. I'm made alive forever with your life, forever by your grace I'm saved. You have brought me back with the riches of your amazing grace and relentless love. I'm made alive forever with your life, forever by your grace I'm saved, by your grace I'm saved.
Morning, good morning. Sit down, make yourselves comfortable. All right, my name's Ed Rocher, and I'm just want to thank you all coming here at South Point and worshiping with us. We're glad that you're joining us. If this is your first time, that's great. We love to share His grace with you. When you get a moment, please fill out there's some index cards, also with the connect cards in the back of the seat in front of you. On these cards, what we'd like you to do, it's an anonymous thing. Just fill in something that you're thankful that, something that God is doing in your life, whether it's in the past, whether it's right now. I don't know about you, I could fill a couple of notebooks up, never mind a small index card. But just do that, and you can put them in the little baskets as you go out. Also, index cards, I got that. So right now, I'd like you to find somebody, hopefully somebody you don't know, and just say hi to them. And I'll catch you guys in a little bit.
Whom shall I fear? Whom shall I be afraid? The Lord is my light and salvation. Whom shall I fear? Whom shall I be afraid? I will wait for you. I will wait for you. The Lord is my light and salvation. Whom shall I fear? Whom shall I be afraid? The Lord is my light and salvation. Whom shall I fear? Whom shall I be afraid? I will trust in you. 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 I will remain confident in this. I will seek the goodness of the Lord. I will remain confident in this. I will seek the goodness of the Lord. I will remain confident in this. I will seek the goodness of the Lord. I will remain confident in this. I will seek the goodness of the Lord. We set our hope on you. We set our hope on your love. We set our hope on the one who is the everlasting God. You are the everlasting God. We set our hope on you. We set our hope on your love. We set our hope on the one who is the everlasting God. You are the everlasting God. We set our hope on you. We set our hope on your love. We set our hope on the one who is the everlasting God. You are the everlasting God. We set our hope on you. We set our hope on your love. We set our hope on the one hope on you. We set our hope on your love. We set our hope on the one who is the everlasting God. You are the everlasting God. I will remain confident in this. I will seek the goodness of the Lord. I will remain confident in this. I will seek the goodness of the Lord. The empty filled, the wounded healed, the broken back together, the poor are blessed, the weary rest. We will dance forever. The blinded see, the chains are free, the doubtful now believer, the outcast known, the orphan home. You are my Redeemer. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, He's making all things new. The lost return, the voiceless heard, the mourner now rejoicing. The mountains shake, the world awake, creation all composing. The sad untrue, the earth renewed, the song has found its singer. The darkness light, the dead alive, you are my Redeemer. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, He's making all things. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, He's making all things new. We've been struck down, we're not destroyed. We've sown in tears, we'll reap in joy. We've been struck down, we're not destroyed. We've sown in tears, we'll reap in joy. My eyes are open. My eyes are open. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, He's making all things new. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, He's making all things new. Behold, behold, behold what love can do. Behold, behold, He's making all things new.
Okay, please sit down and make yourselves comfortable. As we prepare for communion, I'd like to ask you all to take a moment just to appreciate the wonderful opportunity that we have to focus on the monumental moment in time that this is going to represent. So the communion trays are in the center. Please take both cups. There's also a gluten-free option in the back if you need that. Right now, I'd like to read from 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 23 through 26, and that's the ESV. For I, for I have received from the Lord what I also delivered to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night when he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, also he took the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink the cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes again." Pray with me. Father, thank you for the gift of your Son. Through your grace and mercy and sacrifice of your Son, Jesus, we are able to be in paradise with you. And in his holy name we say, amen. Please partake of the elements.
In the morning when I rise to meet you, in the morning when I lift my eyes, you're the only one I want to cling to. You're the first thought on my mind. Let our voices rise, all creation cries, singing out in endless hallelujah. From this moment on, join with heaven's song, singing out in endless hallelujah. In the moments where you go unnoticed, in the ordinary day-to-day, countless miracles of life around us point like arrows to your name. Let our voices rise, all creation cries, singing out in endless hallelujah. From this moment on, join with heaven's song, singing out in endless hallelujah. Only a moment to live this life, like shooting stars, burning up the night, till heaven's open and we arrive. In your presence, Lord, in your presence, Lord, only a moment to live this life, like shooting stars, burning up the night, till heaven's open and we arrive. In your presence, Lord, in your presence, let our voices rise, all creation cries, singing out in endless hallelujah. From this moment on, join with heaven's song, singing out in endless hallelujah. There's nothing better. There's nothing better. There's nothing better than this right now. There's nothing better. There's nothing better. There's nothing better than this right now. In the evening when I lay my head down, in the evening when I close my eyes, you're still the only one I want to cling to. You're the last thought on my mind. Lord, we praise you. We thank you for this time together. For some, it's a rest from the week. For some, it's the first time they've really sat down. But I just pray that this week or today, during this message, that people not only get the rest that they have in you, but they find that peace, that joy, and that they walk out a little bit different than they walked in. And we praise you and we thank you. And everybody says amen.
My name is Emmanuel Karisa. I am a cook and also a parent at Missions of Hope Kibarani, where 3 of my kids attend school. In my past life, I used to struggle with alcoholism. I did not know much about God. Providing for my family was also a struggle since I did not have a good source of income. My marriage was crumbling and I could not afford to pay school fees for my children. Coming of Mohi into our community has greatly impacted and changed our lives for the better. One day, a Mohi pastor visited our home. He shared with me and my wife about the love of God and the good plans that God has for us. That message touched my heart and I decided to give my life to Christ. The pastor then invited us to join the local church located within the Mohi Center. Since then, we regularly attend the service and other church programs. Later, a Mohi social worker recruited my 3 children to join the school. This significantly eased our financial burden. At the Mohi school, our children get quality Christian education. Since they joined the school, their performance has constantly improved. They also eat 2 hot meals every school day. We are therefore not worried about what they will eat during the day. Another reason I thank God for bringing Mohi to our community is because I now have a job. When the school started, they needed a cook, so I applied and was recruited. I enjoy cooking for the kids. My wife also underwent a skills training program that a Mohi social worker conducted. Together with other women in her group, they make detergent which they sell to the school and the local market. The money she received from the sales boosts our family income. I am very thankful to God for bringing Mohi into our community. My life and that of my whole family has been transformed.
Okay, as we reflect on the giving, I'd just like to say that South Point is a very, very generous church. I think we all know that. You all come together, though, when it's there's a time of need. We do this on a very personal level, one-on-one. We do this in our neighborhood, our local neighborhood setting, and we also have a global impact. Our mission to Kenya is one, and Caleb and Lauren Langford's work in Japan, another. So just want to say thank you for your generosity. Keep it up. Today, you can use your usual methods of giving. That's online, by regular mail, or you can just drop it in the buckets on your way out. I prefer online because I'm just so cool with technology. All right, so we're going to do the scoop, and I'll catch you in a little bit. Thank you.
Hi friends, my name is Lauren, and there's a bunch of stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks that I can't wait to tell you about. Here's the scoop. On October October 29th at 6:30 p.m., we will be having our very next night of prayer. I really hope that you can come to this because at South Point, we believe in being a community of people who pray together. On November 3rd from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., right here in Cranston at Top Golf, Sojourn will be sponsoring the Sojourn Top Golf Tournament. This is an opportunity for you to go have a really great time and also support a good cause. All the proceeds will go to benefit Sojourn Collegiate Ministry, which is a ministry who's on a mission to serve and share the love of Jesus with college students around New England. Now, hear me out. If you don't like golf, if you've never played golf, if you know nothing about golf, this is still for you. This is for people of all age ranges, of all skill levels. Let me show you something. This past week, my husband Tyler and I, who is a very good golfer, might I add, him, not me, went to play Top Golf, and I won. Take a peek here at the results. You don't have to have any skills to win Top Golf. So please consider entering this tournament so that you can go support a good cause, share the love of Jesus with college students, and maybe beat your partner who's a really good golfer and have some bragging rights. Dinner buffet will be provided, and there's some awesome prizes as well. On November 12th at 6:30 p.m., we will be hosting Divorce Care Surviving the Holidays. This is an opportunity to come to a free 2-hour seminar where you can get encouragement, survival tips, see a video, have a time of sharing, and leave with a survival guide that will give you some tips for how to survive the holidays after separation or divorce. We really hope you can come and find some encouragement in this space. In the summer of 2025, we are sending a team to Kenya. This is an opportunity for you to connect with one another and to connect with Jesus in another country. This is such a cool thing that I really hope you don't miss out on. And today is the very last day to get information and sign up. So if this is something God's been stirring in your heart, please don't sleep on it. Make sure you head over to Connection Point, get all the information needed, and sign up to go serve the people of Kenya with Missions of Hope International. Okay, friends, that's all for me this week. If you want to know more about any of the things I talked about today or things coming up in the future, be sure to check out our website, southpointri.com/events. And if you want to RSVP to let us know you're coming, or if you're just not into the internet, you can just fill out a Connect card. It's that little card in the seat back in front of you. Drop it in the bucket on your way out, and we'll be sure to get in touch with you or mark you down as an RSVP to know that you're coming. As always, our hope for you is that you will grow closer to Jesus and closer to one another. Thank you for joining us this week. It means so much to us that you were able to take some time out of your busy week to be here with us both in person and online. You're the best. See you later.
If you were not here last week, Tyler Nobis brought us a great message, and he started that message by asking us this question: who here is worn out? And I sat in the back of both of the gatherings we had last Sunday, and I saw a lot of hands go up. And this is not a question that we just answer. This is a question that I think that we actually feel. We feel it because of our overloaded schedules that are just unsustainable. We spend most of our days and our weeks in overload mode. Many work long hours, and some work a couple of jobs just to make ends meet. And outside of our jobs, we fill our schedules full of activities and things to do. And on top of that, we have to maintain our households, and so there's chores that we have to get done. And for many of those who have young kids at home, you're constantly struggling to find this work balance, family balance in your life while getting your kids to all of their activities and sporting events. Every week feels like riding a hamster wheel, a never-ending cycle of busy that has no end in sight. Who here is worn out? Add in the fact that most phones keep us constantly connected to texts and emails and calls and news alerts and what's happening in everybody else's life. the latest trend, the latest meme, the latest TikTok, or the next puzzle and level to conquer in whatever game we're playing. And if we ever do have anything called downtime, we keep ourselves occupied on our phones just to get us to the next thing to do. In our culture, this has become our norm. And I don't think it's just become our norm. I think it's almost become a virtue. In an article for the Harvard Business Review, Alan Waits wrote this. He said, "Once upon a time, leisure was a sign of prestige. Today, that idea has been turned on its head, and busyness is the new status symbol. Busy people are considered important and impressive." It's a lie that has become a lifestyle. And I've lived that lie. I grew up with an unhealthy mix of a strong Midwestern work ethic and a dad who was a perfectionist. These two things combined with my personality that tends to find fulfillment in what I achieve created a perfect storm that led me to live a lifestyle of constantly needing to be busy. This came to a pinnacle for a period of about 7 years when my kids were young. I worked full-time as a college administrator while pastoring a new church, while practicing law on the side, and leading a grassroots nonprofit homeless ministry. And during that season, I was very proud of all of that because I felt important. But now, looking back on it, I've come to realize that season reflected a brokenness that was deep inside me. The brokenness of a false identity and a lie that your value is found in what you do or what you produce. This culture of busyness is toxic to us and our relationships. Links are being made to a lifestyle of busyness and our mental health. We are more anxious and depressed as a culture than we've ever been. We have a difficult time concentrating or thinking deeply about anything. It's taken a toll on our physical health. There's more incidents of heart-related illnesses and disease. There's sleeplessness. There's just a general feeling of constantly being restless. And it's even had an impact on our emotional health. We have never felt lonelier than we feel today because our relationships are a mile wide and centimeters deep. We have no deep connections and relationships in our lives. Busyness causes us to say these crazy things like, well, I just wish there was more time. Or, I could really use a vacation. But neither of these fixes anything. Truth is, if we actually had more time, if that was possible, we'd just find ways to fill it up. And just as Tyler shared last week, typically most of our vacations, when we come back, we need another vacation. But I think Jesus offers the solution. The last few verses that Tyler read from last week were these, found in Matthew 11, 28 through 30. Asking these questions, are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me, this is Jesus speaking. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. I like how this version of the message captures what Jesus is inviting us to. He says, "Come to me," but he doesn't stop there. He says, "And I will show you how to take a real rest." Here's why this is significant. Most of the time, when we learn from Jesus, we study things that he taught, and we try to live that way. Our approach to learning from him is not much different than some subject we'd study at school. We gain knowledge about something so we can use it to live or work or just simply know more. But what if there is more to Jesus' way? It's interesting that the first follower or the first followers of Jesus were known as followers of the way. We see this in the book of Acts, chapter 9, verse 2. It says this: "He, Saul, requested letters addressed to the synagogues in Damascus, asking for their cooperation in the arrest of any followers of the way he found there." This word "way" is the word "hos" in Greek, which means a road or a path. When it comes to following Jesus, this road or path is more than just a theology or a set of ideas about what we believe. It's more than just a set of ethics, the things that we are supposed to do or that we're not supposed to do. Jesus' way, his road or path, is a lifestyle. And you don't study a path, you walk a path. His invitation to follow me is an invitation to follow his way of living so that we are able to experience the new life he came to offer us through his death and his resurrection. A life that we are able to live right now. Learning from Jesus is as much about learning to live the lifestyle of Jesus as it is to live out what he taught. In other words, Jesus didn't just come to teach us how to live his kingdom, but also to show us how to live out his kingdom in our everyday life. So how do we live like Jesus today? This morning, we'll explore just one of those ways. What if there is a rhythm that Jesus created and lived that offers the rest that we long for? Let's read what happens in the narrative of Matthew next. Matthew chapter 12, starting with verse 1, it says this: "At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry, and they began to pluck the heads of grain and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said to him, 'Look, your disciples are doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath.' And he said to them, 'Have you not read what David did when he was hungry? And those who were with him, how he entered the house of God and ate the bread of the presence, which was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those who were with him, but only for the priests? Or have you not read in the law how on the Sabbath the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are guiltless? I tell you, something greater than the temple is here. And if you had known what this means, 'I desire mercy and not sacrifice,' you would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." He went on from there and entered into their synagogue. And a man was there with a withered hand. And they asked him, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" So that they might accuse him. And he said to them, "Which one of you who has a sheep, if it falls into the pit on the Sabbath, will not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more value is a man than a sheep? So it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath." Then he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." And the man stretched it out, and it was restored, healthy like the other. But the Pharisees went out and conspired against him how to destroy him. I don't think it's a coincidence that these two accounts of Jesus' disciples eating the wheat and the man being healed in the synagogue just happened to fall after Jesus offers rest. The religious leaders were constantly watching for Jesus to mess up. And this is another one of those times. This time it has to do with how Jesus and those who follow him observe this thing called the Sabbath. What is the Sabbath and why is it significant? Sabbath is the Hebrew word Shabbat, which means to stop or to cease. We actually see that word first used in Genesis 2:2 when it's talking about creation. And it says this: on the seventh day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all his work. Rested is the word Shabbat. He stopped, he ceased. And then you fast forward centuries, in the time when God is giving Moses the Ten Commandments. In the fourth commandment, it says this: remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall do no work. And then he explains why in verse 11. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested, he Shabbat, on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. That last verse indicates that from the very beginning, God wove this day into the fabric of a weekly rhythm. Wayne Muller says this, he says, the Sabbath is not a burdensome requirement from some law-giving deity, you ought, you better, you must, but rather a reminder of a law that is firmly embedded into the fabric of nature. It is a reminder of how things really are, the rhythmic dance to which we unavoidably belong. I mean, think about how those Israelites receiving these commandments for the first time would have seen this commandment to stop, to cease, to Sabbath. I mean, they had only known slavery, which meant they had to work 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and they had done this for 400 years. No breaks, no stopping, no rest. They would have seen Sabbath as this incredible blessing and gift from God. But by the time of Jesus, the religious leaders had turned this day of rest into a ritualistic burden. Over the centuries, they added rules that had to be followed so that someone would keep the Sabbath, especially around what was considered work. They put limits on what someone could or couldn't do so they would be considered to not be working, including how many steps a person could take on the Sabbath. And to make it even more confusing, each rabbi or teacher would have a different interpretation of those rules. The Sabbath had become a prisoner, and the religious leaders were the guards to keep the people in line. The Sabbath was no longer a life-giving gift of stopping and resting and delighting in God, and become a life-restricting set of rules. Another religious ritual of rule-keeping. That's why picking and eating some wheat while walking through a field or asking someone to stretch out their hand and healing it was considered to be a violation of the Sabbath. Under the weight of all these rules, they had lost the meaning and purpose of the Sabbath altogether. And like we have seen over and over again, Jesus has come to redeem something that has been corrupted. Notice what Jesus doesn't say. He doesn't say, hey, the Sabbath thing isn't really a thing anymore now that I'm here. Just the opposite. He declares that he himself is Lord of the Sabbath. A couple of days ago, Dustin challenged us. A couple of weeks ago, Justin challenged us to read a few verses in Colossians 3 and to read those 3 times a day. And I loved that challenge as those words from those verses just began to absorb into my heart. And the last verse of that says this, the last couple of verses says, everything was created through him, that him being Jesus, and for him. He existed before anything else, and he holds all creation together. You see, Jesus created everything, including the Sabbath. This was part of Jesus' design from the very beginning. You see, I think that Jesus is still Lord of the Sabbath. So what does this mean for us? Like, there are a lot of opinions on what role the Sabbath plays today. I grew up in a tradition of the church that the Sabbath was never really recognized or practiced. It was kind of ignored. It was like this optional thing. Like, it didn't apply anymore. It was only for a part of the Old Covenant with the Jewish people. And some view the commandments or rules as restrictions on our freedom. But what if God's commandments aren't restrictions on our freedom, but rather a means to experience and live in true freedom? What if God gave them to us in love so that we would know how to live the way that he designed us to live, in relationship with him and relationship with one another? And I want to share a way that I think Sabbath does this. Like I said before, the Sabbath is the 4th of 10 commandments. And Jesus summarizes the entire law and prophets in 2 verses, or in 2 commandments, 2 summary commandments. He says this: you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind. And a second is equally important: love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus says that all of the law is summarized in these 2 statements. And what's interesting is that the first 3 commandments are all about what it means to love God. And the final 6 commandments are all about what it means for us to love our neighbors or one another. And here's the truth. It's really difficult for us to love God when we're hurried and busy and tired. We seldom think about him, and we hardly ever spend any time with him except when we're able to kind of squeeze him into our overcrowded schedules. And it's equally difficult for us to love our neighbor or others when we are busy or hurried or worn out. The smallest thing will set us off, like those times when you're in the grocery line and the person in front of you all of a sudden is shocked that they have to pay for their groceries and they're digging through their purse. It's like, you got to be kidding me. We're often impatient and rude and self-absorbed. So right in the center of loving God and loving our neighbor, God inserts this gift that calls us to stop and rest for a day each week. We don't have to live a lifestyle that wears us out. Jesus invites us to a way and to a different way of living. One that enables us to live a life of love for God and for others. And this gift of Sabbath is a way that we're able to live this out. You see, I still believe that the Sabbath is for us. Mark's biography of Jesus tells us the same story, but he includes this little statement that Jesus makes. He says, the Sabbath was made to meet the needs of the people, and not the people to meet the requirements of the Sabbath. You see, Jesus created the Sabbath for us. How is the Sabbath for us? First and foremost, it's really, really important that we understand that the real gift of the Sabbath is not rest. Rest is a byproduct of the Sabbath. The real gift of the Sabbath is being able to spend time with Jesus. There's so much more I could unpack with that, and I don't have time, unfortunately, to do it this morning, but it's always important to keep that in mind, because if Jesus isn't the prize, if Jesus isn't the end, if Jesus isn't the goal of the Sabbath, then the Sabbath will either become a legalistic ritual or become some sort of a spiritual self-help exercise, neither of which will produce what we're ultimately needing, which is time with Jesus. So in our last few minutes, what I want to do is just give us some really practical ideas of what Sabbath means. Sabbath is more than just a day off. Days off are good, but a Sabbath is different. Days off typically mean not going into work or having some me time, which again is good and helpful, but that's not necessarily what a Sabbath is all about. There are basically 4 elements or 4 movements within a Sabbath. And sometimes Sabbaths has all 4 of these, sometimes they just have a few of these. Generally, it's a period of time during a week that you stop. And this can be a 24-hour period of time. This can be a shorter period of time, but it's a period of time that you stop. And it's exactly what this sounds like. You stop doing what you'd normally do on any other day of the week. You stop working, you stop doing household chores, you stop shopping. Whatever you think you have to get done, you stop. And Sabbath, because Sabbath is about embracing limits and trusting God with our limits. The second thing is we rest. You sleep in, you take naps. You rest from worry and technology and playing the endless game of catch-up. The third element is delight in what you've been given, in creation and in good food and drink and relationships and doing something fun or something that brings you joy or gives you life. Always with the mindset of gratitude for God providing it. Which leads us to the fourth one, and that's worship. Spending time with God. Maybe this is in silence or just being out in creation, watching the ocean, walking the beach, listening to worship music, listening to Him, or just being in awe of who He is. Like I said, Sabbath had never been a part of our weekly rhythm until about 8 months ago. Winnie and I started to implement or try to practice the Sabbath. And when I mean practice the Sabbath, I mean like try it out. Practice it. We're still learning and growing in our weekly Sabbath practice. There are times that we aren't always able to do it because of a conflict with a wedding or a funeral or an event that we need to be a part of. And it's an ongoing work in progress for us. But let me just tell you what our Sabbath looks like. We start Sabbath. Our Sabbath time is from 5 p.m. on Friday night to 5 p.m. on Saturday. We kick it off by lighting a couple of candles, of saying a prayer of blessing, and turning off our phones and putting them away. We take slips of paper and we write down anything that may be weighing on our minds, any cares that we have, any concerns that we have, and we fold those and we put those away. It's almost like a symbol of just saying, God, we're just going to trust you in this over this next period of time. We eat a good meal together with some friends. We play a game together. During that period of time for us, we decide that, we're going to put away screens. We don't do anything with technology or TV. We don't work. We don't do chores. We enjoy food. We enjoy time together. I usually, as part of my rhythm, I go out because I love to be outside, and I usually take the dog on a really, really long walk. We spend time reading and doing puzzles and playing board games. I typically do some kind of extended time of reading in Scripture. and also spend extra time in silence and solitude. And like I said, we conclude at 5 p.m. on Saturday. Let me just say this. Practicing this regular rhythm has been a game changer for me. I look forward to this every week. And on the weeks that we're not able to do it, I really feel it. I miss it. I've never felt more rested week to week. I'm far less hurried. I find that I live life at a much slower pace. I'm far less worried. I sleep better at night. I felt more connected to God than I ever have before, and that carries over into my daily times with Him. I'm able to think more clearly and focus so much better than I ever have been before. And one of the interesting byproducts of this, of putting my phone away for 24 hours, is I find myself during the week, like every day, like I'm less connected with it. Like I'm able just to set that thing aside and not even look at it for periods of time. And I could share more and more with you of what I've seen happen and what God is producing in that time. So here's how I want to conclude. I just want to throw out a couple of invitations to you this morning. The first one is this, and starting next Sunday and for the next 4 weeks at 10:30 during this hour, we're going to offer a formation class just calling Sabbath. We'll spend 4 weeks as a video format class where we'll have we'll watch video together, have conversation around what does Sabbath look like in our lives. And if you're interested in exploring more of that, I just encourage you to come and be a part of that class. In a way just to understand more and more the practical side of what Sabbath is and what this could mean in your life. The second thing is, I would just encourage you in the next week, in the next 7 days, just to stop. Whatever that means for you. And for whatever period of time you think is right. I think that's the first step, is just to stop. Stop doing whatever you think needs to be done for whatever period of time you decide that you want to do it. And I'll tell you what, if you're wired like me, it will drive you crazy. I remember our first Sabbath that we took, the first 24 hours, this idea of stopping. I remember doing okay on Friday night because it's kind of like later and there was enough to keep me like occupied, my mind occupied. That Saturday, oh my gosh, my mind was racing 1,000,000 miles an hour. I was seeing everything in the house that needed to be done and making lists in my head of things. Like I could not unplug. And it took me weeks to get out of that mode. Finally, I'm at a place where, man, I look forward to it. Like the idea of just like literally turning my phone off and setting it aside. Like there's like this breath of refreshment. So maybe this week, it's just for you is just to stop. Just find a time and just say, I'm just going to stop. And if you're able to, rest, delight, and worship. Let me just say this quick prayer over all of us. May you find rest as you follow the way of Jesus.
Thank you, Jeremy. Absolutely wonderful lesson. Well, I can identify with that. I don't know about you guys. I thought when I got my age, I would have plenty of time. I'm busier now than I ever have been in my life. So I guess we need to slow down. So I would just like to remind everyone that this is the last day to turn in your application for the Kenya trip. There's also a parents seminar, and that's going to be on Saturday, November 2nd, and that's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2. And in closing, I want to thank everyone, and wish you all a great week ahead. If you need prayers or want prayers, we have people on the right wall there that would love to pray for you or with you. If you're not comfortable with that, we have a prayer room that you can just be by yourself, and there's a little, I think, some papers in there. You can write down a prayer request, and the staff will get to it, no problem. If you're new here, really wish you would stop at the hub on the way out, and that's when you go out the church doors there, right-hand side, that building on the right, the hub. There'll be somebody there that, or a few people, that can just maybe give you a little bit more information about who we are, what we do, what we represent. It's all biblical is what we represent. And you're welcome to stop and check that out. We hope you to do. So I'd just like to ask the Father for a blessing for this week. Watch over us, Lord, and make us slow down, make us stop, make us understand. Let's do your plan, not ours, Lord. So with that, we say amen. And I want to wish you guys a great week. Thank you. I love you guys, and I'll see you soon. Have a good day.